Thank you very much. My name is Eric Montoya. I am part of the business development team here at Badgeville. Predominantly, I focus on rest of world. Rest of world for us is everything that touches the Pacific Ocean for me. I also have a counterpart, his general manager out of our European offices as well. On stage with me are Steven and Fukeda-san. And so, Koji, why don't we start with you? That's fine. Koji, why don't we start with you? Just a quick introduction, talk a little bit about what you do at Yumemi, and then we'll go with Steven.
Okay. My name is Koji Fukeda. I'm co-founder and president of Yumemi. I started my company more than 12 years ago. We have been focusing on mobile internet, basically. We are providing mobile CRM platform for mainly brick-and-mortar enterprises in Japan. Actually, I will mention later, but McDonald's Japan is a very mobile advanced CRM company. And then it implement a lot of gamification inside. We are providing those solutions to Japanese company, and maybe 2 or 3 years later, before here, I have been interested in gamification, which should be integrated into CRM platform. So that's why I came here and try to educate the Japanese market, and also try to share knowledge mobile and with gamification with you all.
Thank you. Steven?
Thanks for having me here. George Mobile is a app for smartphones and tablets that gives you talk, text, and video chat with Amplitude. And the reason that we've gamified the experience is, and working with Badgeville, it enables us to measure, track, and understand and learn more about our users and build a really kick-ass product, because people got to love what you do in order to share it. So it's helping us create our Tom Sawyer moment,
Cool. So interestingly enough, a lot of the focus for this morning was about how businesses are gamifying their communities, they're gamifying the applications or the web experience itself. Statistically speaking, though, 79% of the Fortune 500 don't have a mobile optimized experience. And you contrast that with 87% of the world's population is mobile. And it brings a very interesting dichotomy to what a lot of organizations and a lot of folks are doing. So I'm curious, and maybe Steven, we'll start with you. How are, I guess, the engagement mechanics, if you will, different when the approach is focused more around mobile?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the smaller real estate. I mean, you don't have a big screen, and it could very easily become a lot of noise. So it has to be a part of the experience for the user in such a way it doesn't interrupt their behavior, what they're doing. It should be a part of what they're doing, and in terms of their own objectives within the application or the business service that you're providing. So inobtrusive is important. I mean, imagine, we provide phone calls, right? So imagine if you got a badge blink in the middle of a phone call. You don't need that. But you need to know that you're in it to win it, and you're going to be rewarded somehow in the outcomes. So I think that it's about really thinking through the process early on and identifying your objectives and being concerned about the customer experience too, because that's what you're really trying to build.
What do you think from an engagement perspective?
Yeah, actually, from my experience, the user interface of a mobile phone or mobile app or mobile web browser-based service is very important. How you lay out things, how you use the character or illustration, it really affects the conversion rate. And also the other things we should look at is the using mobile phone, you can track offline behavior of your customers. That's already different things, and that's also happening in Japan. And for example, the McDonald's can track all of users' data at the restaurant chains, when, what kind of food they buy, and those kind of all layer things will change what kind of information distribution should be done for each customers. So those tracking offline behavior data and also the user interface is very different compared with PC web, I think.
Okay, so that's interesting. So then, Steven, for you, what are you learning about some of that user behavior that you're actually tracking right now in the mobile experience? And maybe contrast a little bit after you go through that with what's different about that full browser experience versus what you're able to capture on the mobile?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. I mean, what we're talking about in mobile is native application development, so it's software on the phone. So it's a little bit different from a browser experience that way. But really, it's about the real estate. Again, that's all I can really offer to you on that. I mean, you've got so little time and space there, and people need to see the value in what you're doing, and not an intrusive experience. So going back to that, the ability to tap what is going to be a 5 billion person market with smartphones over the next couple of years is a massive opportunity. And that'll be native application to some degree, HTML5 browser type development. As the 4G type networks become more ubiquitous. This year alone, telecoms are investing $337 billion worldwide on next generation networks to connect approximately 4 billion people who are still on a 2G crappy network with a feature phone. And they want to be like us. They want to have a smartphone. They want to be on Facebook. They want to stay connected. In fact, that kind of goes to that old saying, people don't go to the hardware store to buy a 1/4-inch drill. They actually, 1/4-inch drill bits. What they really want is a 1/4-inch hole. So my analogy there is about apps. We've never been more connected than we are today, and that's a problem. We've never been more connected than we are today. So we're flipping from one app to another just to stay connected. People don't want to have 10 apps on their phone to stay connected with their friends. They just want to stay connected with their friends. So that's the problem we're trying to address, is to bring it all together, make it more meaningful.
So Koji, you talked a little bit about McDonald's and what they're doing with mobile. What are some of the things that are important from a user behavior perspective that they're looking to capture? What are some of the things that they recognize if they weren't doing this via mobile, they potentially would be missing out on what they're doing from an interaction perspective?
When I think about the mobile internet usage, I always think about the mobile infrastructure things. In Japan, basically we are all 3G and half of them using a 4G network. The internet connections are very comfortable. But here, compared with the Japanese infrastructure, but a little bit less comfortable than Japan. But in later, it will be. So that will change things dramatically after you feel comfortable using a mobile network. And also, other things is that using native apps or browser-based is also a problem for us. But in Japan, basically it's half and half. Some clients want us to build native apps, but some clients want us to build HTML5-based browser one. So we should look at both. And then we should look at both to tracking behavior things, both technological side.
Okay, maybe we can take a step back then for a second. What is the state of gamification in Asia today? And then we'll talk about mobile here in just a second.
In terms of gamification, actually I myself hold a conference like this the end of June, last month. It was quite good. People are seriously thinking about the gamification in Japanese market. But I found it's 1 year, almost 1 year behind the US gamification penetration. People are really interested in how to use the gamification idea to improve their user engagement. But there are a few cases. There are not good successful cases right now. So we are now trying to make successful cases here in Japan by partnering with you.
So how do you see that then impacting mobile as they?
Actually, our clients want us to do both mobile and PC. It's a must, mobile must.
Okay. And just curious then, from an expanding market perspective, and that's certainly my visibility into what's going on, are you seeing dichotomies then in what we're doing here, let's call this West versus East, in terms of gamification and the impact that it has and how you translate that into mobile?
I'm just learning about it. For example, we're partnering up with an Indian telecom provider, and what they're telling me, and this is, we're in the sort of research stage about this, is what they're telling me. And you can kind of see this when you go to a telecom website in India, for example. You'll see great big essays about why you should choose this, weighing pros and cons about features. It's a very logical buying decision, I think. And I'm being told that generally speaking, Indians, at least their market that this telecom provider talks about, don't like getting stuff for free. In other words, they like to pay for things, and it's a little bit different. We kind of like the whole promise of swag here in North America, and people want to be in it to win it. That's our thinking. If I do something, there should be something what's in it for me. In that case, it's a little bit more binary, and I'm finding that's what I'm learning about it.
So, all right, cultural norms then, what are we taking for granted? What applies, what doesn't? As you think about that contrast, and then I'll follow up with Koji with a similar question.
Geez. How do I contrast that? Well, I think that social context, for example, is really important to us in North America, and that's what you've built into Badgeville, for example. That's part of our product evolution as well with the customer experience. I mentioned Tom Sawyer moment a few minutes ago. Well, by that I mean the story of painting the fence. If you remember the book, having social context. It's like, hey, we're doing this over here. We're having fun. We're getting free stuff, and it's neat. That in itself is a way of conveying to people, come on over. Let's jump on the program here. Tom Sawyer was able to get his friends or other boys to paint the fence for him and actually pay him to let them paint the fence so he could go goof off for the day. That's like the ultimate marketing trick,
And so what do you think from a cultural norm perspective
actually,
in Asia, in Japan?
Yeah, that's always, when I make a presentation about gamification in Japan, I'm always asked that same question from Japanese people. The idea of gamification from US, is that applicable to a Japanese culture? I always say yes, it is applicable, because basically the gamification is a very human psychological thing. If you should look at that, what is your customer, what customer needs, not see the cultural differences. Maybe cultural differences affect your customer's behavior or what they want, but when you look at the customer deeply, then you don't miss. And also, maybe the difference we should look at is social network penetration is a bit different compared with US and Japan. We tend not to use Facebook. Maybe 10 million, 1/10 of our Japanese population use Facebook. So people tend not to use communicate on the web socially. So we have to be more careful. The people tend to be more shy. So we need to get accustomed to our Japanese people to use a social activity compared with US, I think.
Can I ask a question, Koji?
Yeah.
So there's an app that's kind of like what we do, like Viber and Skype and all that. It's called Line.
Yeah.
Right. It's from Japan, and it's coming from a game company.
Right.
And what I think is really unique that I'm getting from witnessing, they went from in 6 months 0 to 150 million users. That's pretty wild. But those little emoticons and emoji that you have when you do text messages? Well, Line takes that to a whole new level, and you get these stickers, which are like big cartoon-sized emoticons.
People exchanging
and they're
cartoons.
symbols. There's like the samurai guy and all sorts of different stickers, and they assign some meaning to them, right? So how does that work from the cultural? Like, why is that so popular? Is it just because it's cute? It's not really just cute. What is it?
In some cases it's just cute, but the cartoon or emoji can express a lot of feeling things.
Yeah.
Not just sending a plain text. It has a lot of meaning. You can guess a lot of things from why he sends this cartoon to me in this timing. So it's kind of like a guessing game.
Like a picture tells 1,000 words, kind of.
Right,
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah. That's people having fun, each other guessing what he wants to say to me. Maybe sometimes it's just nothing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that then for a second. Sound like there are a lot of unique challenges to loyalty, to driving the behavior. Think about it, right? If it's a mobile application itself, I have to do something really simple, like, get you to download the app in the first place and then start to use it and all that kind of stuff. So how do you make that experience for your users more engaging? How do I get them to return?
I think from our company's perspective, we provide mainly brick-and-mortar companies for mobile solutions. They have, real retail shops or food chain shops. It has a lot of meanings. From my experiences, the gross amount of customers of 1% to 3% of a gross amount of users will download apps or will register your services. And if it could be a haircut shop, customers tend to spend more time than food chain, retail chain. The rate will be more than 10 times. So if you have a retail shop or restaurant, you don't have to spend money for advertisement. That's a good advantage for them.
So what about from your perspective,
Well,
Stephen?
in our app, we have Badgeville, and it's measuring a lot of different activities within the app. And so we're building endpoints to those activities or the lack of those activities per user to trigger communication with them, because we're a communication application. So we send them a message saying, hey, did you know this? And just to communicate it, because we're a little torn. There's a thing that you'll read about different, I guess, two camps, schools, right? One that you should maybe guide people through the process and how your application or how your thing works, and here's your next steps and what you get. And there's another camp that says, we did our research about our market, 18 to 34. They grew up playing games and social networks. So some of this should be familiar. So we've gone with that school, which is to say, I take it for granted you know what you're doing, and in games, people go in, there's no rule book, there's no how-to, there's no help. You basically go and you find the boundaries and you kind of push the limits and see where you fall off the cliff or something happens and you get something. So we've kind of gone with that. At some point it'd be great to have a cohort where we compare A and B, but that's what we're doing.
Interesting. So one of the things that we're seeing, marketers in general are taking a much more mobile-first strategy, if you will. It's not just an add-on, but this is something that we feel is core to who we are and what we do. Is that something that you're seeing internationally as well?
Yeah, I think so. According to the penetration of the mobile infrastructure, it's getting better. The mobile first. It should be mobile first. It's happening in Japan right now. People tend to using mobile first, just because Japanese people don't use PC anymore. They like smartphone, they like tablet. That's totally fine. We don't have to use PCs at all. So what should be first?
Yeah. So, Stephen, I'll start with you. What questions should people have in mind? If mobile first is their approach, should they really be focused on as they're trying to take these first steps?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is planning out your objectives. Like, what is it that you want to achieve in terms of engagement with your user, and how to align that with your business objectives. I mean, you really have to think that through, because it all comes down to serving people's needs in a way that's more function and less noise. Because again, it's kind of going to this mobile first versus the bigger screen, where there's just too much noise, right? So you have to take away a lot of things in order to build value, and I think that's where things are turning. And aside from that, there are 4 billion people that will probably have their first connection to the internet on mobile, just because of price point of device and ubiquity of service and that kind of thing. So the mobile has become essential, and it's a huge, huge opportunity worldwide to break down a lot of barriers and get people on a platform that's more refined in a way, from an experience perspective. So it's an opportunity, but it's a challenge.
So then what do you think, from a future innovations perspective, what do you think are some of the things that you see coming down the pipe in terms of gamification or in terms of mobile? Yeah, that's really important. So for example, you started to see Facebook ads showing up in your stream, and they want you to click on it. I don't want to click on it. I'm kind of offended. I want it to say, here's what's in it for you if you click on it. I want virtual currency. As an advertiser also, I'm willing to give up, $1 for, cost per engagement, so that someone will click on it and engage with my product. And I want to know that the publisher, let's say Facebook, is going to give that user some of the credibility, some credit for it or something, or even some actual currency that's got value. And again, people won't be incented to click on those ads unless there is real value at the end of it. And so we've already got that with Tapjoy. 900 million installations, 60 million daily active users on games all over the place, hitting offers, getting a couple of coins or bucks for engaging with a Disney video trailer. So there's huge pools of untapped virtual currency
that's going to go stale and useless if people don't monetize it. So our whole build is about virtual currency and the ability to tap pools and make phone calls free forever, you know? That's really our goal, but I think maybe that can align with other people's business objectives too, because those pools of virtual currency will have meaning if people can transfer those credits and use them to buy farm animals or stickers on a phone or whatever, right? I mean, small, low-risk transactions. What's in it for me?
So Koji, just to kind of help wrap us up, in terms of the horizon and future innovation, what do you see trending just in terms of gamification and mobile as well?
Yeah, in the morning session, Sarah, the girl said about the gamification should be a relationship between service providers and customers. And then in future, I think the word mobile will be meaningless because every internet connected device will be mobile. And then you can find a lot of touch screen devices anywhere. And then it means that service provider can track everywhere, every time your customers' behavior. And also they can give their customers a feedback anytime, anywhere they want. So it should be long-term relationship. If you push something too pushy for the customers don't like yours. So it should be more long-term relationship using all those mobile-enabled devices. I think that will be the future of gamification and mobile.
Interesting. Well, gentlemen, on behalf, obviously, of the audience, Badgeville, Stephen, for your innovation and what you're doing in terms of technology and mobile, and Koji, obviously, pushing into emerging markets and what have you. Thank you both very much for sharing your insight and your time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's great.